Abnormal Psychology is so perfect. This is the 4th episode of the 5th season of Cheers, directed, of course, by the wonderful James Burrows, and there will be spoilers from now as I talk about this episode. I have quite a lot of notes. I will try to not make this too long, but I have a lot of thoughts, and they're all positive. They're all really positive. I absolutely adore this episode. It actually starts off establishing one of the main narratives. There are 2 main parts to the story, and in the beginning, we actually find out that Woody, Norm, and Cliff have decided to go fishing. More accurately, Woody has decided to go fishing and Norm and Cliff are trying to find an excuse to not go. We'll come back to that in a little bit. Diane then comes into Cheers and Sam gives her some concert tickets that a customer had given them, and Diane refers to this event as being, and I quote, "our first official date together in our newfound relationship," once again establishing that Diane is still very much convinced that Sam is in love with her and that he is going to propose to her again. What's really interesting about this is that Sam didn't deny it. And he just asks her to scrape, in his words, somebody else to go with because he doesn't want to go. But he never at that point actually denies their, in Diane's words, newfound relationship, which I think is really, really telling. And then the other part of the episode kicks in, and this is Frasier coming into Cheers, and he reveals that he's going to be on a TV show called Psychology This Week. And then he gets a phone call telling him that Dr. Foster, who he was supposed to be going on to the show with, was no longer available, and Dr. Sternin, of course Lilith, is going to be taking Dr. Foster's place. And Frasier decides he doesn't want to do the show anymore. He doesn't want to be involved in a debate with Dr. Sternin, and Diane comes to the conclusion that it must be love. That must be what he is feeling. And there's a brilliant line from Sam that I absolutely love. Diane basically says that one of the telltale signs for Frasier being in love is what he does with his nostrils. And Sam points out to Diane, and I quote, "I do not love you, Diane, and I have the nostrils to prove it." Often in Cheers, there are things said that one would never expect to hear. That's one of them, and I absolutely love it. Lilith then enters the bar, and Cliff says frost warning, which I rather enjoyed, and Lilith and Frasier have a bit of an exchange, and it's not exactly a heated exchange as such to begin with, but there's definitely this level of animosity there, and neither of them is particularly happy about the fact that they have to go on television together. Frasier hasn't actually cancelled at this point, and his encounter with Lilith kind of makes him realise that he's going to go ahead with this. And Frasier has to leave because he has an appointment, and their closing words to each other are pretty harsh. Lilith says to Frasier, "Have your attendant make sure your tires aren't as inflated as your ego," which I think was fair. Frasier's comment, not so much. He says to Lilith in response, "Normally people of your limited physical appearance make up for it with an actual personality." Lilith is gorgeous. It's such a harsh and untrue thing to say, so I don't love what he said. But Lilith's remark, knowing what we know about how Frasier carries himself, I can understand where she's coming from. We then have this beautiful moment where Diane actually talks with Lilith, and this is beautiful for 2 reasons. One, I love Diane, and Diane and Lilith interacting really helps to bring Lilith more into Cheers, because up until that point it was mostly just Lilith's brief interaction with Frasier, but having her interacting with other people in the bar really helps to bring her forward as not yet a main character, but certainly somebody who has the potential of becoming more significant. And the other reason I love this is because we get to see a bit of vulnerability in Lilith, and it's quite early. It's early on in Lilith's role for her to be shown vulnerability, but I think it was the right time. And Diane tells Lilith that she thinks Frasier is infatuated with her or enamored of her. I can't remember the exact phrase she used. And Lilith does a kind of laugh and then says, "Why would Frasier Crane be attracted to me? I'm not that kind of woman." There we have Lilith showing her insecurity about her appearance, which I think, as I said, it's very early on in the character's role to be showing that kind of vulnerability, but I think it's really great. And she goes with Diane for her makeover. Meanwhile, Woody has got the truck ready, and Norm and Cliff are still not really wanting to go, but then Woody tells them that there's a portable TV and a cooler in the truck, so they end up going. And then we cut to the TV show. Lilith is gorgeous. She's beautiful before the makeover, but she looks amazing. And we get to see her for about 3 seconds, and then it cuts to it cuts to Frasier's expression, which is just one of the most fabulous things ever. And we get this beautiful shot, in fact, a couple of shots of Sam and Diane, who are watching this on TV in the bar, so close together, even before things get a little hot and steamy on the TV show, and I'll talk about that in a second. Diane and Sam are so close together. And I love the fact that Sam is willingly allowing himself to be that close physically to Diane. He's not trying to put this distance between them, and I love that. I really love that. And then we have the TV show and the debate, and they start to talk about probing and thrusting, and just the sexual tension between them is incredible. And they end up playing footsie by the end of it, and it's just an absolute joy. It's an absolute delight, and of course confirms everything that Diane was saying, which I love, and I'm sure Diane loved that as well. A little later, we cut back to Cheers. The guys come back from fishing, and then Frasier comes in, and he's not happy with how he behaved. He feels like it was inappropriate, which is fair enough. And then Lilith comes in, and things get so interesting. I mean, up until this point, they've been fabulous, but they get even better. Lilith actually comes in to apologise for her quote-unquote overzealous behaviour. And again, they're not exactly pleasant to one another. I think things are starting to soften a little bit, but they're certainly willing to go their separate ways and never speak of it again. I love the line. I didn't write this in my notes, but it's just come back to me. The line about how Frasier actually lost 3 patients because of what happened on TV, and Lilith gained 3 patients. Rather enjoyed that. They're about to go their separate ways, and Diane suggests that Lilith could lend a hairpin because the fridge door is stuck. And Frasier sees right through this. He knows what they're trying to do. So he tells Lilith to just give Diane the hairpin to get it over with. And of course, Lilith lets her hair down. She looks beautiful. And Frasier, for maybe not quite a minute, but certainly a long time, he tells her that he's going to kiss her and he's going to do it. And it goes on for a little while, to the point where Lilith is clearly so tired of waiting that she pounces on him. Brilliant moment. Look at Diane's eyes. I love Shelley Long. Her facial expressions are always so amazing. In that moment when Lilith pounces on Frasier, all I could look at was Diane's amazing expression, her amazing reaction to it. And of course, it is so fabulous. And then a couple of minutes later, Lilith ends up jumping into Frasier's arms. And it's so beautifully executed. And I don't know how many takes it took. I would love to see. But she just jumps into his arms and he carries her out. And it's fabulous. And I absolutely loved it. And I love Lilith so, so much. And I don't want to say any more about Lilith or what happens with the character going forward. But I will say that we have, at the very end of the episode, Diane's beautiful speech, beautifully written, beautifully delivered speech about how she's going to go to the concert all alone, but she's okay with that because she's in love, and her lover may not know he's in love, but he will one day. And then Carla just screams at her to get out, and it's the loudest I've ever heard anybody scream in Cheers, ever. It's the loudest Carla has ever been, and she just screams at her to get out. And Sam finally agrees to go to the concert, basically to shut Diane up, but he says that it's not a date. And I just think, yeah, right. You keep telling yourself that, Sam, because Diane knows, and I know, and I think everybody watching it is aware of the fact that you love Diane, and Diane loves you. And often I want to shake both of them. Right now I want to shake Sam because Diane is very aware. There have been times when I've wanted to shake Diane as well and make them realise what's between them, but I will say no more. This is a wonderful, wonderful episode. Abnormal Psychology is fabulously funny. We have some amazing, amazing moments with Lilith. We have some fantastic quotes. I loved it. Everything about it, absolutely perfect.